Good afternoon, councillors, staff, members of the public, and those of you joining us on the live stream. Welcome along to this meeting for the Community Wellbeing and Regulatory Committee for September. No one on Zoom, and we have apologies from Evelyn and Trish. If somebody would like to move that they're accepted. Barry and Pania. Put that all in favour.
Aye.
Against. Carried. Any declarations of interest? If not, I'll do the public forum first and then come back to the Youth Council just so you can stew for a few minutes. Relax. Diane, please come and take a seat. This won't hurt a bit. Thank you very much for the written information. We've got a brief summary that's in board books, but essentially the floor is yours now.
Thank you very much, and first time in amongst all you guys, so thank you for making me feel so welcome. Nobby, Mr. Campbell and Rennie over here, so thank you for making me feel so welcome. So just backing up the horse, I'm a city ratepayer ×2 and an ex-school girl. So colour pop, for those that you don't know, colour pop for me is polyanthers, tulips, just beautification, pansies, marigolds, everything that comes to our city that has been here in previous years. I have to ask each and every one of you if I can get some clarification around why the annuals have been taken away from our roundabout plots. It was very noticeable when I went over to Gold Guitars this year that I went past the Eastern Cemetery en route to Gore, and I identified at Ascot Park roundabout that there was going to be no spring delights, no polyanthers, no tulips, that it's now full of rock and stone. Now this brings the second idea that I've got is the safety concerns at the roundabouts. Now I'm not sure who lives in South City or has come through South City today and stopped at the roundabout opposite Rugby Park. Typically again that had tulips in it a couple of years, but that's gone. So what have we got there now? We've got natives. And how high are the natives? Can the grandma that's got cataracts in her eyes see visually round the roundabout? Typically annuals have a clear vision so everybody can see what's happening on the busy roundabout at school time right now. We have quite high broadleafs in the middle. What does Transit New Zealand, or what is the standard procedure about height at roundabouts? Also take a note at the Herbert Street Queen's Park one as well. So that's probably where a bit of concern lies, is the height around the roundabouts versus what was typically low growing bedding plants that offered colour. The other one I want to talk about, I typically work at the Invercargill Airport, and you know, we've got the whale's tail out there. I'm not sure whether it's council or Invercargill Airport that deals with that leadway into the airport, but probably for the last couple of months it's been filled with road cones. New Zealand has a substantial amount of road cones, that's for sure. The whale's tail looks a wee bit ho-hum, to be fair. There's no beautification around it, and if it is, it's pretty juvenile. Moving forward, the Clyde Street roundabout, a gateway entrance to our city. What does everybody think about that? I'll leave you for your Q&A in 5 minutes. In my view, it looks very tired, uninviting. It just looks as though it's been somewhat neglected over time. I believe that there was a group out last weekend doing some volunteer work trying to clean it up. I wish I was invited because I would have been there, boots and all. Moving along, Clyde Street, 4th Street, Wood Street, into the Soldiers' Memorial. The white daisies. How long have they been there? Where's our new spring? Those white daisies have been there since probably Labour weekend last year. I stand to be corrected. And all the moss and residue on the pavers. This is our gateway to the Langlands, the new CBD. I just ask that we can look at increasing the beautification around that. I could talk about Cooper's Corner, but I believe Transit New Zealand or somebody else is going to take care of that because it's damn right disgraceful. But I just feel like we just need to come back to the grassroots, put some beautification in. Why has it changed so dramatically to the natives? And we've lost all our colour and beautification. So I'm going to hand it back over to you guys. Darren, I think I've done my 5 minutes. I've done my dash.
You could have 10 if you want.
No. It's all yours now. Thank you for your time. And I welcome consultation outside of the meeting, how I could help or assist or put ideas forward.
Thanks, Diane. Can I kick off then?
Sure.
If one of the things that council has to balance out from some very clear feedback that we received during the long-term plan consultation about people's affordability with rates, what do you think we need to shift the priority from in order to meet the higher expense of beautification in centre plots and roundabouts?
So has the funding for the parks and reserves been cut, or has it remained the same for X amount of years?
Pretty static.
It's pretty standard. So why have we lost, what do we have to do to find extra money to make it more beautiful? Is it because the costs of wages have gone up? The cost of roading, transport, traffic management, has that become an issue?
You've answered your own questions.
Yeah.
Yes to all of the above.
Yes, so every council has the same, I don't want to talk about apples with apples, but we look at Gore, they have the same roundabouts, the same traffic management problems, but they have beautiful garden plots.
What was their rate increase?
21%.
What was ours?
Yes.
Grant.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks for your coming to see us. Have you had any thoughts or discussions about perhaps community groups that we could partner with that may be able to work alongside to achieve your goal? Look, I absolutely agree with your goal. I think we need to sort of welcome people better to our city. The roundabouts are obvious at Normal and the various places. So, are there any groups you've had approaches from, or you've give consideration to that may work alongside us, likes of Rotary Lions or particular groups we may be able to form up that may take, like yourself, that are special interest, that have skill in this area, and we can support them with our park staff potentially.
Yes, and interesting, and thanks for that, Grant. I have actually just in the last year taken up a bit of a newfound hobby and joined with the local Dahlia Society and Chrysanthemum Society, and is often talked about at meetings, about just in general conversation. So it is something that there could well be discussions around, or the Lions Club, Rotary Club, Wellbeing clubs, definitely.
But you haven't had any contact from
No.
them? No, okay. No, I'm not expecting you to, but...
No.
Great suggestion, thank you. Rhea, then Rangi.
Thank you, Diane, for bringing some of the topics to us today. I wanted to come back to the particular roundabout on the corner of Queen's Drive and Tweed Street, and the natives that are in there. And I've brought this up previously at other council meetings, and I have found it to be quite a dangerous roundabout because you can't see because of the shrubbery inside the roundabout. And I had feedback from another person saying that it's quite strategic, apparently, that if the bushes are higher, then it makes people slow down when they're coming to the roundabout. So instead of it being a danger, it's actually an incentive to slow down. Now, I don't accept that today, as I was told a couple of months ago, that's the reason why. I think that we do...
Are we leading to a question, councillor?
Sorry?
Are we leading to a question?
So my question being, when you asked, can a grandmother see through those natives, I don't think anyone can. So what would you suggest happen with those roundabouts that are eyesores that you can't see through?
Well, what is the legal requirement? Is Transit New Zealand, or who... I feel like the one at Rugby Park in particular is obviously, it's got broadleaves in the middle. They're too high. But I'm not here to say whether they should be removed or chopped or anything else. There's somebody else within the divisions that can make those decisions.
Rangi.
Thanks, Chair. Look, following on from Aria's statement question, I've just been on the NZTA website, and they did say that they don't want people approaching at speed, seeing ahead, because of cyclists. They want people to slow down so they can pick up cyclists easier. So my question is, and it's a very important topic, so would you like this committee somehow to recommend some course of investigation to the infrastructure committee, where we have roading people, to actually, bring it as an item to the infrastructure committee? Is that something you'd like to see?
Yes, I would.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
Did the chair of infrastructure pick that up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Good question. Thanks, Rangi. Brings us to our time. Diane, thank you very much for bringing your concerns. The questions that I asked at the beginning were not facetious. They're actually engaging with what the suggestions you have are. And can I leave you with one of the things that works well with council is a weight of opinion. And so if we can see that there are a lot of people who are looking for that change, that gives us some confidence in order to make it. But this is absolutely the first step. Can I commend you for the way that you've put it forward and how you've engaged with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Thanks, Diane.
Councillors, that brings us to the Youth Council update, and we've got both Kira Rees and Emerson Dale Davis here to present. Come up and take a seat. Youth Council update is on tab 8.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, councillors, and Mana Whenua representatives. I'm Emerson. I'm a Year 13 at James Hargest, and this is my first term on the Youth Council.
Kia ora, I'm Kira and I go to Aurora College, and this is my first year on the Youth Council. So the Youth Council has 4 committees this year that were picked by the public at an Invercargill Central event, and we began planning through SMART goals and are now working on our projects. For the Arts and Creativity Committee, they're focusing mainly on one project, which is the Youth Arts Showcase to exhibit media and art projects that will be made possible with Youth Council connections. We are looking for different venues to host the art forms, as it will be for young artists to display their works, including performing arts and hopefully short films. The Mental Health and Wellbeing Committee is proposing a unique pop-up event at the Feldwick Gates, which is the biggest game of chess Invercargill has seen. The idea is to get passing members of the community to join in and make one move with this, symbolising connections to each other and being part of a bigger picture.
The Green Environment Committee attended a climate action taster workshop with Community Trust South last week, and they found it very informative. They're planning to meet with organizations that work with the environment to prepare a report on actions young people could take in the climate space. The Cultural Activities Committee is taking part in the Welcoming Communities program during the Welcoming Week, which is from the 6th to 15th of September. Their main project is making a community cookbook with recipes from different parts of the world and across many cultures. So if you know someone who would like to submit a recipe, or if you'd like to submit one yourself, you can add yours by filling in the form on the ICC Let's Talk page this week. In other news, as a follow-up to the previous media training session, we had an additional workshop with the ICC communications team. We learned about political neutrality, and one of us got up and got to take a practice interview, which was a lot of fun to watch. Also, at the beginning of this year, we started off our formal youth council meetings in the council chambers and our informal meetings at the library. But due to construction, we've moved and we've decided to stay at the library for both our informal and formal committee meetings, which I think is a lot less confusing for parents at pickup time. And yeah, we're excited to see what the new year brings.
I've heard from my fellow youth councillors that they had a really good time welcoming the Kumagaya exchange students with the Mayor and Councillor Ludlow. We followed that event up with a quiz at the last youth council meeting. Our members look forward to more opportunities to connect with our sister cities in the future. Youth Council will begin recruitment in late September, and a recruitment committee has been set up and the application progress agreed on by members. This year, returning Youth Council members will still have to apply but will not be interviewed. They'll be assessed on their attendance and involvement from the year. We have an informal Youth Council meeting tomorrow where we are doing te tiriti training with Pania and are hoping to write a collective submission for the museum consultation. Thank you.
Nice. Councillors, open for questions. Councillor Broad.
Thanks, Chair. I love what you're all doing at the Youth Council. It's a real pleasure of mine to be involved every few weeks. Just want to give you credit for taking on the public feedback around your committees. Really cool initiatives, looking through those committees and your plans ahead of you. Just confirming that the cookbook, and it'll be no doubt detailed somewhere, but it's a PDF, like e-copy, so really accessible for people that want to be able to download it. That's the plan, yeah?
Yes, it is a PDF.
Okay, awesome. And then I know you're about to look at recruiting, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there any kind of ideas you have around the recruitment process and some ways of potentially this year being able to access as many rangatahi as possible to join?
One of our ideas as the Youth Council was to have a couple of Youth Council members go to all of the schools and speak at assemblies, because we thought that seeing people face to face would make people more excited to join the Youth Council.
Awesome. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Great, thank you.
Tom.
Thank you. I probably should know the answer to this actually, but I don't, so I'll ask you. Last Youth Council year, we Council actually asked Youth Council, I think there was 2 or 3 sort of focus questions where we really wanted Youth Council's input. So one of them was on vaping, another one was on, I think one was on climate change. Have we done that this year? Has Youth Council been asked to consider specific questions by Council?
The short answer is yes, and in some cases Youth Council has said they choose not to answer it, and in some cases they've made submissions.
Okay.
I guess the difference between the previous Youth Council and this one is the previous Youth Council had a lot of people who had continued through, and so we heard some really informed opinions and active participation from them. A lot of the Youth Council this year are first termers, and so getting them to come to terms with the role has been a big part of it. So with that in mind, can I ask, how has it been? Has it been what you expected? Has it been more than or not quite?
Yeah, well, I feel like I've personally learned a lot of new skills from the Youth Council, and it's the reason why I joined was to learn these kinds of skills, so yeah.
Thanks, Kira. Emerson?
Yeah, it's been great. One of the reasons I joined the Youth Council was I was hoping to get back into politics because I took a little break when I moved here. And I feel like I've definitely gotten to have that choice. It's been really, informative. I've gotten to learn a lot about Invercargill, which I enjoy.
Thank you. Alex?
Sorry, just one quick question. Would you encourage people to get involved right at the start of the spectrum for when we can accept people into Youth Council, or do you think they're more suited for, enter or exiting high school sort of range, or more adult people? What's your experience? Because I know we've got a complete variety of ages on Youth Council at the moment.
It kind of just depends on, if you're ready to do something like this at a younger age, then go for it. Like, we have a whole wide range of different ages in the Youth Council, and it's kind of just whenever you feel ready to join the Youth Council.
Yeah, I think whatever age you have opinions at and ideas is the age that you should join the Youth Council.
Good. Excellent answer. Pania?
Kia ora. I just felt your report was really comprehensive and fantastic. Just my comment is really in regards to the cookbook, because I love food. Just what avenues have you sort of taken to get the culturally diverse recipes? So,
both of us are on the Arts and Creativity Committee, so we can bring that question back to our Cultural Activities Committee.
okay, thank you.
No further questions? Councillor Broad, do you move that we receive the report?
Yes.
Seconded, Councillor Crackett.
Yes, indeed.
I'll put that all in favour.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Kira and Emerson, thank you very much for getting out of school early to come down and talk with us.
Great, thank you.
Thank
The
you.
afternoon is yours. Right, that brings us to the minutes of the Community Wellbeing Fund Subcommittee. In the absence of Councillor Boyle,
I'll move.
Councillor Soper, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Bond. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Minutes of the Community Wellbeing and Regulatory Committee from August 13. I'll move. Seconded by Councillor Soper, thank you. Questions or comments? Mayor Clark.
Yeah, I know it's normally just that we ask questions related to the accuracy.
Sorry.
Good choice of music.
That's not on board books.
Yeah, appreciate that that we normally just field questions about the accuracy of the minutes, but on page 17 of board books there was the question around the number of dogs euthanized annually, and I only raise it because I think it's been in the media recently, so it would be helpful from staff to know two things from my end. What were the numbers? So how many this year, how many last year? And two, it was a bit disappointing to read about that in the media if that was the case, because we get questions about this from the public, and if we don't have the answers, it doesn't look too good.
So I think the feedback was to have it included in the report next time, but we can certainly bring those figures back to the next committee meeting.
Yep,
Thank you for
you.
that. Pania.
Just in reference of page 16, bullet point 2G, just in, I recall the discussion around 300 metres to 100 metres under board discussion around having commercial businesses that sell the same products, but I didn't think we landed that we were reducing it to 100 metres.
That's what we're going out and consulting on. That's the proposed reduction.
Thank you.
And it wasn't disputed or disagreed with, so it's accurate. But it's still live. Thank you. Any further questions? If not, it's been moved and seconded. I'll put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. The minutes of the Creative Communities Scheme funding meeting from August 22nd. Councillor Bond.
I can move.
Thank you. I'll move them. I'll second them pro forma. Any questions from that? Put it then. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. District Licensing Committee minutes. I'm happy to move that they are received.
Second those.
Seconded by Councillor Kett. Questions? Put that. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Brings us to the Southern Regional Outdoor Stadium concept development. And Rex, welcome along.
Thank you. Obviously take the report as read, and just if I can, just remind us back to the purpose of this report, which is primarily an update to this committee from some previous conversations and discussions that were had both around the council table through the LTP process with respect to the rugby park facility itself, which then led for the opportunity for council representatives and Rugby South representatives to meet in May of this year to discuss a partnership approach of a way forward to address some of the wider issues that were then raised and discussed as a result of that facility discussion. And really this is an update to bring this committee up to speed with some of the conversations and progress that has been made from that May meeting, in which I was tasked to go away and work alongside Rugby South and to develop some draft scoping exercise on what might be appropriate for us to consider for the future provision of an outdoor stadium. And I've called it a regional outdoor stadium concept development approach. A couple of things, just as also as a reminder, going back a few more years than just of this year. So many of you will be familiar with the OTIUM report, which was produced or released in February 21 from a series of a lot of work that was done in 2020. There's obviously a lot of change and other points for consideration that have moved us on from that 2020-2021 report. But I refer to the executive summary of that report, where primarily on pages 4 and 5 of that report there is actually a suggestion for consideration and recommendations that Council undertake what is being proposed through this paper today. So it actually assists in fulfilling some of the considerations and recommendations that came out of that report. As well as that, it's been actively developed over and released in 2023, a Southland Regional Open Spaces and Places strategy, and also a Southland Sports Field strategy, which has been produced and developed from in conjunction with our neighbouring authorities and a number of other external stakeholders, including funders. So again, this piece of work will reference back to those pieces of work which were released last year. And finally, if I can, just in terms of the approach that is suggested in draft form here, which has been discussed with Rugby Southland representatives, both the new chief executive and also the chair. They've been through the draft, but it's still in draft form, obviously awaiting our consideration. But you'll notice it's attempting to look at it from a three-phased process. That first phase with a bit of a rugby focus because of the points that were raised through the LTP process around what is the future of rugby, what should we be considering as a regional approach to that future. Then from a broader sporting, multi-sport, multi-use type concept, to then look at it from a broader community-wide venues, events, community-focused approach as well. So the three phases will allow us to undertake the work in a chronological order, but actually feed into each other from each phase onto the other. I think I can leave it there, and also, I suppose just finally, the needs analysis and assessment work will at the end of this process support the next stage or next iteration of a report which has got pretty much the content that would be covered off in that report as the last stage of that attachment to this piece of work. And open to any questions and interested in your discussion. And like I say, I'm open to answer any questions.
Thank you. Can I kick off? I'll rephrase it. Can I start? Councillor Soper and I obviously have an interest because we were part of the working group that led into the OTIUM report, and that's a couple of years out of our lives. But accept the fact that goalposts, pun intended, totally, have moved since then. You talked about the discussions with Rugby Southland so far and a partnership approach. Can I ask you to describe that partnership?
In terms of how this project will work?
I'll be more blunt. Can I ask you if the partnership is one where Rugby Southland see themselves as a financial contributor as well, or are they just a tenant with a wish list?
I think ultimately they would see themselves as an active partner contributing to the future development. They have actively gone out to source funding from an external funding partner to support this project. It has been declined, but they do see themselves investing going forward in terms of what comes out of this, but not upfront at the moment, or haven't asked them to.
That is excellent, thank you. Councillor Crackett.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Rex, under the engagement approach, under the regional, you've got Rugby Southland, RSOs, regional spaces and places, and good that we've got regional spaces and places, but is there any reason why the RST itself isn't listed there?
Not for any other reason than that they are the driver of the regional spaces and places group. So they administer that and are involved with that through their CE and 3 other staff. But certainly can include Active Southland as the Regional Sports Trust to be exclusive, if you like. No problem.
Yeah, I guess the reason I ask is that, you know, with your engagement approach, if you're trying to, I guess, get engagement from Active Southland itself, like we'll have to go through their governance as well.
Yep.
So,
I've made a note here already.
thank you.
Grant?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Rex, just a couple of things. I appreciate this. It's a scope initially, and it may be covered within one of the other categories, but considerations looking at different funding models and reaching out to sort of perhaps other regional facilities in Australasia and what funding models look like, not only for capital funding but equally OPEX. I think that's really important. I think that's probably one of the issues we've had with Rugby Park is that hasn't been fully addressed, so I think that's important to cover. And then the second thing would be just time frames for what the expectation would be that this would come back to council and get a feel for that so we keep things moving.
Really good point around the regional or the funding model approach, and certainly from an OPEX, and you're really keen to include it. If it's not clear in this, I'm certainly want to add it in and make it clearer, because that to me is one of the areas that if you're not explicit about it, it's easy to oversee. That's actually the critical thing from a 15 to 20 year approach. In terms of the time frame, depending on how soon we can get the group together and sign this off to initiate the first phase, I'd like to think that the bulk of this work will be completed by June of next year. My aim is to, because the funding is in this financial year, is obviously to get the bulk of this done, and it would be probably a final report would be, you know, in the early stage of the next financial year. But the bulk of the work from the working group, I'd like to think we'll be able to generate the completion of that by June of next year.
Yeah, and just a secondary for me, because I think that's important because it impacts on their long-term plan around some of those capital decisions, and so the council needs to be fully informed, well, as informed as it can be hopefully before, and with sufficient time before they make those decisions would be made into consideration around time frame.
It's a very good point, and I've already had been summoned to our corporate planning office to remind me that this is something that she would like to be fed into that that process, which is good because it shows that we're connecting those dots.
But I appreciate it's drafts. So thank you.
A summons, how exciting. Tom?
To some extent, my question was the same as the second part of Grant's, which was about timing. But I mean, the reason I was asking the question, Rex, I think you almost certainly answered this before, but just remind me the answer. So we are continuing to do the work that was scheduled for this year. And we have hit the pause button on the work that was originally scheduled for next year. So just remind me, is there anything about the work that's being done this year that says, look, really, if we're going to restart it, it's got to be restarted within 3 years, or it's got to be restarted within 2 years, otherwise you lose the benefit, I mean, in terms of weathering or anything like that?
So it's probably a very good question. It's probably opportune time to say that with the feedback we're starting to get from the construction team and the project management office is there may be a need for us to come back to you to address some of those matters that may result if we don't look at that stage 3 work again sooner rather than later. But there's no time frame on that at the moment. But there has been some some reasonable feedback information that's suggesting that we should be doing that from a good asset management perspective. And I think that was raised at the time, but it's something that we've got to be upfront about. And in answer to your question, I think it will be coming sooner rather than later.
Okay. I think logically you'd expect that. So thank you.
Rangi.
Thanks, Chair. Look, I'd like to challenge a recommendation to Council, bullet point 3 up there. Looking at balanced working group, I believe it's a bit lopsided on rugby pedigree. The reason I say that is that you've got Councillor Dermody, ex-board member of Rugby Southland, and our own General Manager here is an ex-board member as a staff member. I have no problem with Rex having that experience on the committee, but I feel that we need to keep Councillor Bond and have more lateral governance thinking, and yourself or Councillor Soper, having worked on the previous ODM report. And also I go back to the minutes. I always love going back in history. 2015, February 24, when Council made the decision to take over Rugby Park. Councillor Ludlow spoke very passionately about the diversity need and everything for that. I've got the verbatim minutes here, and I think I believe we need that lateral thinking, and it comes with the experience of governance. So if I would actually move either yourself, Darren, or Councillor Soper to replace Councillor Dermody, just to have that balance.
Is that the classic play, the man, not the ball?
Um,
No, just...
Can I ask you how long it's been since you've been on the board of Rugby South and Grant? Sorry, I'm not aware, because I've never heard you speak in any particular direction.
Be at least 6 years.
Actually, there's no motion on the table as yet.
Well, I
stands.
will move that then. I just want to obviously move either yourself or Councillor Soper. I don't want to move just one in case, I need to sort that out.
If I can then insert myself here to say that even though my family history with Rugby Park goes back a very long way, it was raised more than once when I was on the committee that led to the OPM report. Was raised on a number of occasions, in fact. So if we're talking about history with rugby, then the surname Soper may or may not be the advantage that you are thinking of.
Well, they may leave you.
And including me.
And to be fair, bearing in mind the family that I married into,
Yeah, that's right, you were out too.
I'm not devoid of a connection to rugby either.
Sorry,
and that's one of those things where you're...
Sorry, it's not the family history or connection. It's your actual personal experience and governance and working, and that's why I was quite keen on the separation, especially from a council point of view.
While you ponder that, I'll go to Matt Clark.
Yep, I'll comment on the proposed amendment when we get round to that. Just a couple of other things for Rex to be considering potentially, is every time we consider Rugby Park, we seem to get a different list of problems at Rugby Park, and it would be really helpful somewhere along the lines to get a real good handle on what is the earthquake-prone building status. Is it the whole area, or is it just parts of the area? What happens if we do nothing on the earthquake-prone building stuff? Do we have obligations, 12 and a half years, 25 years? Or do we have some change obligations because it's a public facility? What will happen if and when the park transfers from the Invercargill City Charitable Trust, which currently owns it, and several of us are trustees on that, into core council facilities? So that will obviously have a rate impact if we have to start paying both operational and capex costs. And then there's the issue that over and above the earthquake prone impact, there's also the I guess the wear and tear on the building, which seems to keep coming up in larger amounts, that roofs are leaking and there's damage here and damage there. So it would be really helpful to know as we go forward. I mean, personally myself, I think the OTM report got it right. A city this size doesn't need an outdoor stadium, but at what cost is what we have to face. And does 4 or 5 million justify the number of games there? And so that's the core issue for me. And I'll come back to the appointment of the councillors when that comes up, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Tom.
I think understanding the point that Councillor Pottinger is making, I think one thing I would say is that this is actually a working party. It's not purely a governance group. In fact, it's not a governance group, it's a working party. And being a working party, you would hope that the members of it would understand what they're doing, you know, would have some background, I think. So rather than being a disadvantage that someone's been, you know, deeply involved in rugby in the past, I actually would see it as an advantage on a working group. And actually, I suspect if you go around the table, probably every single one of us, and the men at least, had probably played rugby at some point or been involved in rugby. So I don't know that
not me, Tom.
you're going to find anybody. Yeah, but it also,
Clearly
it
not the
also
men.
helps if you don't hate the sport.
Not me, I'm free.
Barry, my apologies.
Yeah, you're right. Is it envisaged that Rugby Southland will move back into the rugby park building, or is that out of the picture now?
That's something that will come through as a result of what the outcomes of this study would do. I'd suggest it would assist them. I know that they are looking at alternative accommodation options now, but at the moment, the way the stand is and the status of it, they can't move back into the as it is now.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before I go to resolutions? Councillor Bond.
Thank you, Chair. Rex, we've decided that we were going to defer the strengthening work process till 2025. And the question's been asked what part of the park is where the strengthening issues relate to. And going through the interim report, it relates to the main stand only. And there's been recommendations that the product used for stabilising the main stand, we from micro piles. And then there's some roof rework that we've been doing. So through the time of being in this council, I've seen that there has been maintenance that is necessary to do, but it's the first time I've seen the micro piles introduced as a resource for strengthening the main stand building. If we don't do that work, how is the lifespan of that stand going to look like? Currently, we've got 29 years supposedly left in that life cycle of the grandstand. If that re-strengthening is not done, what does that reduce that lifetime to?
That's something I'd have to refer to our project management and the construction area. Sorry, we can follow that up though.
Yeah, sure, thanks.
So to be clear, the stand in front, the old Strikers Kids stand, is unable to be used. And the proposal is to take it out.
Yep, no, that. But still requires.
Any other questions? Right, let's come to the resolutions and knock off the two easy ones. Recommendations 1 and 2, the report is received and endorse the combined working group to be established with representatives from Rugby Southland and ICC. Was there an inclusion of, Active Southland in there as well? Are you comfortable with that, Rex?
Well, you want them on the working group?
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that.
Can we add Active Southland to that, please?
Well, I could represent them.
You said it. Thank you.
Second.
Moved and seconded. To put that all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now we're looking for a recommendation to go to council about who is on that working group. We've got the easy to do is the General Manager of Community Spaces and Places. And we are looking for a couple of councillors. So I'm open to a resolution or anybody who wants to put themselves forward to be part of that. Councillor Bond, obviously you want to.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Thank you for standing up.
Chair, am I able to move the resolution as it's recommended there?
You are? Yes.
Well, I'll move that we approve it as recommended under point 3.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a resolution on the table. It's open for discussion. Seconded by Councillor Gettle. Were you wanting to speak, Peter? Thank you. Mayor Clark.
Yeah, so opportunity to now talk about the issues that Councillor Ponja raised. At the time that we made the decision not to continue with the 2005 work that needed to be done at the stadium, things got very heated between us and Southland Rugby, very heated, including in the media. I attended the following meeting, and I can tell you that for those that haven't heard that that Grant was really tough on the rugby union, I have to tell you. certainly was not in any shape and form pro the rugby union. It was quite upfront and challenged them on quite a few issues about the way they were dealing with the issue and the issues that we face. So I have absolute confidence that he'll advocate well for us on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you. No further speakers. We have a motion on the table. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Aye.
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 Against?
Against.
Do you like that recorded, Rangi?
Yeah,
Thank
knock it
you.
down.
Noted. That brings us to the end of the public session of the meeting. Thanks to those that have joined us on the live stream. I'll move that we go into public excluded to discuss the minutes of the PX session of the Wellbeing Fund Subcommittee, PX of Wellbeing, Community Wellbeing and Regulatory Committee, public excluded minutes from Creative Communities, and a verbal update on Briscoe's building from the Chief Executive for the reasons as outlined, all under sections 7.2.1 and 2A.
I'll second that.
Mayor Clark.
And I'd like to speak to it as well. So,
Yes.
I don't understand, given that we've got a verbal update today, and the staff members that are going to give us a verbal update know where the boundaries are around the privacy of some information that might be available around this issue. That I still don't understand why we are going in behind closed doors or into public excluded. There is huge public interest in what's happening on that building. There's also commercial interest from ratepayers either side of the building, and in particular from the Invercargill Licensing Trust, and there's a significant amount of media interest as well. And so it would be my view that we should stay in public. And
Understand that.
Yep.
The difference is we can have a 60-second update in public, or you can get a full update in public excluded that includes information around stuff that's currently under negotiation. And it's the stuff that's under negotiation that's the reason for going into public excluded. If you want to have it in public, you're going to get a very brief 3-line summation. If that's what the committee wants, that's what we can go for.
Through you, Chair, isn't it the case that we could do both? Given the public interest that we do actually receive that brief that you've just described, and then go into public excluded and hear what's commercially sensitive, where we know that we cannot actually talk about it in public.
It is possible, and I'll give Mr. Day a moment to contemplate that. Rangi.
Thanks, Chair. Look, I think we have to give the owner of the building total privacy in any negotiations, and it's no point splitting it up. I think this needs to be done. It's easy enough to do a release of information straight afterwards, ASAP, but we're only going to muck around by splitting this up, and I don't believe we will achieve anything by doing A and B and whatever. So I think we should proceed as the Chair has indicated.
Mayor Clark.
Yep, just as a response to that. On 4th of September, I emailed the Chief Executive and sought answers to some questions. There was about 8 or 9 questions. Only one of them I think would be unreasonable to have in an open session. I don't get answers to a lot of those things if we go in behind PE, and nor does the community either. We've got a long-standing commitment to be transparent with the community, and I think we've had, whatever it is now, 8 months, 12 months of having those ugly containers there, and the community has a right to know what we're doing about them.
Duration of time is not an excuse. Councillor Soper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I very much agree with Councillor Pottinger on this one. I think the safe and really only approach is that this is in committee, but we have the perfect ability to make a release of what can go out of committee as a public notification after we've had this in-committee briefing. I'm very conscious that there is a private property owner involved here, and very concerned that anything is said in public that would breach our obligations to any of our ratepayers.
Thank you. Fair to say we're also very aware of the public interest as well.
Which is why I think it's sensible to bear in mind we have the ability to make a press release after we've had this in-committee discussion.
Mr. Day, have you a comment you'd like to make?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through yourself, Chair, I could almost give the statement in relation to what would be in public right now, which is that we're in commercial negotiations with the building owner. I'm not sure that'll solve any of the questions that Council have put forward to me, which I'd like to be able to answer, but all of them are connected to the commercial negotiations currently being undertaken.
Okay. We've got a motion on the table. It may be voted down if people want to have, I'm not sure what else Mr Day could provide us with, but I'll put it all in favour.
Aye.
Against? Noted.
Thank you.
Mayor Clark voted against that. We are now moving into public excluded and the